Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of the Knifehead figure by NECA. This is NECA's first attempt at tackling kaiju from the movie Pacific Rim, and Knifehead was released in Series 1 alongside Gypsy Danger and Crimson Typhoon. For being NECA's first attempt at a kaiju, does Knifehead make the cut to enter into your collection? Alright, so first, going to take a look at this sculpt of Knifehead, and I have to say it is very, very, very detailed. You can see all of the little individual bumps and grooves on the arms of Knifehead. The carapace on the back is very detailed, surprisingly, for something that seems so simplistic. You can see individual little wave markings on the back. The neck is great, surprisingly, for a neck. The actual knife of Knifehead, it's very pointy, and it can actually leave a mark. Yeah, it's sharp. It hurts. It's very jagged. The chest looks great. I mean, it looks like Knifehead, and that's because it is due to the fact that NECA received the actual image files that the team that made the monsters used in the movie. So the actual digital files were used to construct this. At least the base, as far as I know. Alright, the paint on Knifehead, for the most part, is pretty good. Knifehead is pretty much entirely a charcoal, gray, blackish deal, and he has these yellow lines that go throughout his design. Pretty much everywhere you look on Knifehead, there's a yellow line, and it's very, very chaotic, so even with the articulation cuts into the sculpt, it looks fine. There's really no slop at all for the yellow lines, and really, if there was, you really wouldn't even be able to notice or complain about it because it's a very chaotic design and it's a giant monster. The carapace features some pretty cool paint. You can see here for the little tusk, horn, whatever you would call it, spike. It starts off at a very, very light gray and then slowly fades into the darker gray and then into the black. The only two problems with paint that I have that are actually on Knifehead, one, the lower set of teeth. As you can see here in particular, there is a little bit of paint slop, which is fine. It's not too big of a deal, but it is an issue that I wanted to bring up. And also, see if I can get a good focus in here. Yes, kind of. The eyes of Knifehead right here. There's one. It's a blue dot with a black line through it for a pupil. And he has two blue dots here. And the other eye, which you can see much better on this side. Blue dot with a line through it for the pupil, and two blue dots. I think that could have been done better. How, I'm not entirely too sure, but, I mean, for the price range, it works. And the only other complaint I would have about paint, as a preference, because I've seen a lot of people customize it, is that when Knifehead comes out of the water to fight Gypsy Danger, he's got some blue going on in his mouth. And quite a few customs that I've seen with the blue mouth look very, very nice. So, perhaps for a Knifehead redo at some point in the future, that's something that should be considered. So, sculpt on Knifehead, very, very great. And the paint, it's pretty solid. Complements the sculpt. Next up when talking about Knifehead is the Articulation Knifehead features. So, as per the usual, going to start at the head and work it all the way down to the feet. So for the head, what articulation does Knifehead have? Just the mouth. That's all that moves. It's on a hinge joint. Not too much to say there. Shoulders, they are on a swivel joint. Both of them. And for the rest of the arms, it's just a hinge at the elbow. Fortunately, there's no bicep swivel, which would be nice to have on Knifehead. That would definitely increase the range of motion on the arms. And there is nothing going on the little arms here. They're just fixed sculpted. You can move them down a little bit, move them up, but I would highly suggest not doing that because it feels like if you were to do that too much, they would break. So for the thighs and hips, a ball joint. Not sure why it's a ball joint since it really only acts like a swivel. There is the option to sort of shimmy it around like that, but not too much you can do with that. And then hinge at the knee. For the tail, the last point of articulation, there is a wire going through here. And as you can see, you can put it in different shapes. Mine is kind of, I guess you could say, picky about what I do with it, so it's either this or straight as I showed you before. Be careful with the tail. A friend of mine, about 2 weeks after he got it, tail snapped, and I believe the wire poked through the actual rubber coating the tail. So overall, articulation for Knifehead, it works. It's something that one would expect out of, say, a vinyl designer toy or plastic toy for kids, but could be improved a little bit. Perhaps that'll be done in a revisit to Knifehead, but for the price point, overall, it works for a simplistic Knifehead. Next up, scaling. Now, as I made mention before, Knifehead was not released by himself. He was released alongside two Jaegers in Series 1, Gypsy Danger and Crimson Typhoon. Now, as shown in the movie, Knifehead is much, much larger than Gypsy Danger. Unfortunately, in the plastic format, Gypsy Danger is much taller. Though in terms of plastic, I guess Knifehead may have more to him, but yeah, doesn't scale too well. And then for reference, though these two never showed up on screen, so perhaps this could be correct. I don't know. But here is Crimson Typhoon. Even when the leg joints on Crimson Typhoon are lowered a bit, Crimson Typhoon is still larger than Knifehead. Yes, but there is a silver lining to this. Chances are, if you have Knifehead or something else from the Pacific Rim subline, I guess you could say, of figures from NECA, you probably have a Godzilla figure. And here, as a 6-inch stand-in, is the SH Monster Arts Godzilla. And as you can see here, Knifehead is bigger than Godzilla. Even taller. So though Knifehead may not necessarily be in scale with the Jaegers, he definitely is in scale with the King of Monsters. That's pretty cool. Finally, my final thoughts on Knifehead. Knifehead's MSRP is about $20, though there are some stores that have sold it for less. Most, namely Toys R Us, sold it in-store and online, though briefly online, for $14.99. And for the price point, what we're getting for Knifehead, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. At first, I was a little bit harsh on Knifehead, and I attacked it for a lot of things that it didn't have, but going back and looking through it, everything, I like it. So far, it's the only Knifehead currently on the market in the 6 or 7 inch scale that I'm aware of. That's not a custom. And for the price point, really, can't go wrong. Personally, I would prefer to pick up all of the Pacific Rim figures in one go, from Series 1, most notably. So, overall, it'd run you about $60, $70 depending on where you're buying it from, though Knifehead will be reissued in October alongside Series 2 in a 2-pack with Gypsy Danger. So, is Knifehead the best kaiju figure ever? No. It definitely does feel like the first attempt from NECA to make a monster of such unique design, because they have been known to do Predators and Aliens, and this strange alien-esque design definitely doesn't come easy from transitioning from a digital file or from the screen into hard plastic format. So I'd have to say bravo to NECA for tackling this head on. And for the first attempt at Kaiju, it's not too bad. And definitely I would have to say one of the things about Knifehead is that though this particular figure may not be one of my all-time favorites, it definitely does help shed some light on a bright future for what's to come for Pacific Rim.